The giant glass doors of the Golden Crown Hotel swung open with a soft whoosh. Inside the fancy ballroom, hundreds of people in expensive clothes were talking and laughing. Crystal chandeliers hung from the ceiling like frozen fireworks, casting rainbows of light across the room. The music from the string quartet filled the air with soft, elegant melodies. Before we begin the story, comment below where you're watching from. Enjoy the story. Please subscribe to my channel for more sweet videos like this. Let the story continue. But then everything stopped. The violinist's bow froze in the middle of a note. The talking stopped, so suddenly it was like someone had turned off a television. Even the waiters carrying fancy drinks on silver trays stopped walking, their mouths hanging open. Everyone turned to look at the entrance. Their mouths dropped open. Some people gasped so loudly it echoed through the silent ballroom. A few dropped their wine glasses, and they crashed to the marble floor with a loud smash that seemed to break the spell. Emma Rodriguez stood in the doorway like a movie star walking down the red carpet. Her long black hair flowed down her back like silk ribbon, catching the light from the chandeliers. Her midnight blue dress sparkled like diamonds under the bright lights, hugging her figure perfectly. The dress had tiny crystals sewn all over it, and they twinkled like stars in the night sky. She looked so beautiful that people forgot to breathe. Men straightened their ties. Women touched their own hair, suddenly feeling plain next to this vision of elegance. But this was impossible. This couldn't be the same Emma Rodriguez who worked as Mr. Harrison's assistant. The Emma who wore old gray sweaters with holes in them. The Emma who had thick glasses that were always sliding down her nose. The Emma who always kept her head down and never spoke up in meetings, even when she knew the answers. This woman standing in the doorway looked like royalty. She stood tall and proud, her shoulders back, her chin up. Her makeup was perfect, making her dark eyes look mysterious and beautiful. Her lips were painted a soft pink color that made her smile look like a work of art. Mr. Harrison, the CEO of Harrison Industries, stood frozen at the front of the room near a small stage. His face turned white as a sheet of paper. His hand started shaking so badly that the microphone in his hand almost fell to the floor. He had to grab it with both hands to keep from dropping it. He had invited Emma as a joke. He wanted to embarrass her in front of all the rich and important people. He thought it would be funny to watch her feel uncomfortable and out of place. He had even told some of his friends about his mean plan, and they had all laughed together. But now, as Emma walked into the room with her head held high and a confident smile on her face, Mr. Harrison realized he had made a terrible mistake. This wasn't the quiet, plain assistant he thought he knew. This was someone completely different. The room stayed silent as Emma walked across the marble floor. Her high heels clicked with each step, the sound echoing through the ballroom like a drumbeat. People moved out of her way like she was a queen walking through her palace. Some people whispered to each other, but they couldn't take their eyes off her. "Is that really Emma Rodriguez?" Someone whispered, their voice full of shock. "She works for Harrison Industries." Another person said, unable to believe what they were seeing. "She looks like a princess from a fairy tale." A young woman gasped to her friend, "How is this possible?" An older man asked, "She's just an assistant." Emma heard some of the whispers, but she didn't let them bother her. She had expected this reaction. She knew that people would be shocked to see her looking so different, but she also knew that she deserved to be here just as much as anyone else. As she walked, Emma noticed everything around her. The ballroom was decorated with white roses and gold ribbons. Expensive paintings hung on the walls. The floor was made of white marble that reflected the light from the chandeliers. Round tables covered with white tablecloths were scattered around the room, each one set with fine china and crystal glasses. This was a world of luxury and wealth, a world where Emma had never felt like she belonged. But tonight, she felt different. Tonight, she felt like she could conquer the world. Emma reached the center of the room and stopped. She looked around at all the shocked faces staring at her. Rich businessmen in expensive tuxedos. Society ladies in designer gowns and sparkling jewelry. Politicians she had seen on television. Movie stars she had read about in magazines. All of them were looking at her with their mouths open, unable to believe what they were seeing. Then Emma smiled. It wasn't the shy, nervous smile she used to give at work when Mr. Harrison was being mean to her. This was a confident, powerful smile that lit up her entire face. It was the smile of a woman who knew exactly who she was and wasn't afraid to show it. She looked directly at Mr. Harrison, who was still standing frozen on the stage like a statue. For a moment, their eyes met across the crowded room. Emma could see the shock and confusion in his eyes. She could also see something else. Fear. Mr. Harrison was scared because he realized that he didn't know Emma at all. He had thought she was just a quiet, plain woman who would do whatever he told her to do. But the woman standing in front of him now was strong and confident. She was someone who could fight back. And that's when Emma did something that made everyone gasp again. She raised her hand and gave him a little wave. Not a shy wave, but a confident gesture that said, "Hello, Mr. Harrison." Surprise. The gasp from the crowd was so loud it sounded like a wave crashing on the beach. People couldn't believe what they were seeing. The quiet assistant was waving at her boss like they were old friends. But there was something in Emma's eyes as she looked at Mr. Harrison. Something that made his stomach flip and his heart race. It wasn't a look of a scared assistant who was grateful for her job. It was the look of someone who had a secret. A big secret. A secret that would change everything. 3 weeks earlier, Emma sat at her small desk outside Mr. Harrison's office. The desk was old and wooden, with scratches and coffee stains that had been there since before Emma started working. She was typing on her old computer, trying to finish the monthly reports he needed. The keys stuck sometimes, and she had to press them harder than normal. Her thick glasses kept sliding down her nose, and she pushed them up with her finger every few minutes. Emma had worked for Harrison Industries for 3 years. Every single day, she wore the same kind of clothes, a plain gray or brown sweater, a long black skirt that went down to her ankles, and comfortable flat shoes that made no sound when she walked. She kept her long black hair in a tight bun at the back of her head, held in place with a simple rubber band. She never wore makeup, not even lipstick. She liked to stay invisible, to blend into the background like a shadow. Her workspace was tiny compared to everyone else's. She had a small lamp, a cup full of pens, and a stack of papers that never seemed to get smaller. On her desk, she kept a small photo of her grandmother, the only family she had left. The photo was old and faded, but Emma looked at it whenever she felt sad or scared. Mr. Harrison was not a nice boss. He was tall and handsome, with perfect white teeth and expensive suits that probably cost more than Emma made in a month. His hair was always perfectly styled, and he wore a gold watch that sparkled when he moved his wrist. But he was mean to the people who worked for him. He yelled at them when they made mistakes. He made them stay late without paying them extra. He especially liked to make fun of Emma. "Emma," he yelled from his office, his voice echoing through the hallway, "get in here now and bring me those reports." Emma sighed and gathered the papers from her desk. She had been working on them all morning, checking every number twice to make sure they were perfect. She knew that if there was even one small mistake, Mr. Harrison would yell at her in front of everyone. Emma walked into his big office, her head down as always. The office was huge, with tall windows that looked out over the city. The walls were covered with pictures of Mr. Harrison shaking hands with famous people, politicians, movie stars, and other rich businessmen. His desk was made of shiny mahogany wood and was bigger than Emma's entire workspace. Behind his desk was a leather chair that probably cost more than Emma's rent. "I need coffee," Mr. Harrison said without looking up from his computer. His fingers were flying across the keyboard, and he was frowning at the screen. "And make sure it's hot this time. Yesterday's coffee was cold, and I had to throw it away." Emma nodded and turned to leave. She knew exactly how he liked his coffee. Black, no sugar, extra hot. She had made it for him hundreds of times. "Wait," Mr. Harrison said with a mean smile spreading across his face. "I have something to tell you." Emma stopped and turned around slowly. Mr. Harrison was looking at her with a strange expression on his face. His eyes were twinkling, but not in a nice way. It was the look he got when he was planning something mean. "You know about the Golden Crown charity ball next month, right?" he asked, leaning back in his expensive chair. Emma nodded. She had helped plan the event for weeks. She had called caterers, ordered flowers, and made sure all the invitations were sent out. It was the biggest party of the year in their city. All the richest people would be there. Movie stars, business owners, politicians, and socialites would come to raise money for charity. The tickets cost $1,000 each, more money than Emma made in a whole month. "Well, I've decided to invite you," Mr. Harrison said, his smile getting bigger and meaner. Emma's eyes went wide with shock. "Me? But, sir, I don't think I should." "Oh, but I insist," Mr. Harrison said, his voice dripping with fake sweetness. "Every employee deserves a chance to see how the other half lives. It will be educational for you. You'll get to see what real success looks like." Emma felt her cheeks turn red with embarrassment. She knew he wasn't being nice. He was planning something mean. She could tell by the way he was looking at her, like she was a mouse and he was a cat. "I really don't think I should go," Emma said quietly, her voice barely above a whisper. "Nonsense." Mr. Harrison laughed, a harsh sound that made Emma flinch. "It's a formal event, of course. You'll need to wear a fancy dress. Do you have one?" Emma shook her head. She had never owned a fancy dress in her life. The nicest clothes she had were the plain sweaters and skirts she wore to work. "Well, you'll have to figure something out," Mr. Harrison said, enjoying her discomfort. "I already put your name on the guest list. It would be rude to cancel now. People might think I don't care about my employees." Emma's heart sank to her stomach. She knew exactly what Mr. Harrison was doing. He wanted to embarrass her in front of all those important people. He wanted them to see his poor, plain assistant trying to fit in where she didn't belong. He probably thought it would be funny to watch her stumble around in uncomfortable shoes and a cheap dress. "The invitation will be delivered to your apartment tomorrow," Mr. Harrison said, turning back to his computer. "I can't wait to see you there. It's going to be interesting." Emma left his office feeling sick to her stomach. She sat back down at her desk and tried to focus on her work, but her hands were shaking. She kept making mistakes in the reports, having to start over again and again. At lunch, Emma sat alone in the company cafeteria, like she did every day. She ate her peanut butter sandwich and tried to think of a way to get out of going to the party. But Mr. Harrison was her boss. If she didn't go, he might fire her. And then how would she pay for her tiny apartment? How would she buy food? How would she take care of her sick grandmother? Emma needed this job desperately. She lived in a small apartment in the cheapest part of the city. The walls were thin, and she could hear her neighbors fighting all the time. The heat didn't work very well in the winter, and the air conditioning was broken in the summer, but it was all she could afford. Every month, Emma sent most of her paycheck to the nursing home where her grandmother lived. Her grandmother had raised Emma after her parents died in a car accident when Emma was little. Now her grandmother was sick with a disease that made her forget things, and she needed special care. The nursing home was expensive, but Emma couldn't bear the thought of her grandmother being alone and scared. The next day, a beautiful gold envelope arrived at Emma's apartment. The envelope was so fancy that Emma was almost afraid to touch it. Inside was the invitation to the Golden Crown Charity Ball. It was printed on thick, expensive paper with gold letters that shimmered in the light. Emma stared at the invitation for a long time. She had two choices. She could go to the party and let Mr. Harrison embarrass her, or she could quit her job and find a new one. But finding a new job would take time, and she couldn't afford to miss even one paycheck. As Emma looked at the invitation, something strange happened. She felt a little spark of anger in her chest. Why should she let Mr. Harrison make fun of her? Why should she always be the quiet, invisible assistant? Why should she let him treat her like she was nothing? Emma walked to her closet and pushed aside all her plain clothes. In the very back, hidden behind everything else, was a garment bag. She had never opened it since moving to this apartment 3 years ago. With shaking hands, Emma unzipped the bag. Inside was the most beautiful dress she had ever seen. It was midnight blue with tiny crystals sewn all over it that sparkled like stars in the night sky. The fabric was so soft it felt like water running through her fingers. Emma had kept this dress for 3 years, but she had never worn it. It was from her old life, the life she had left behind when she decided to disappear. As Emma touched the dress, Memories came flooding back like a river bursting through a dam. She remembered who she used to be before she became Mr. Harrison's quiet assistant. She remembered why she had chosen to hide from the world. But maybe it was time to stop hiding. Emma looked at herself in the mirror. Behind her thick glasses and plain clothes, she could still see the person she used to be, the person who had been confident and strong and successful. Maybe it's time, Emma whispered to her reflection. That night, Emma made a phone call she hadn't made in 3 years. Her hands were shaking as she dialed the number. The phone rang twice before someone answered. "Hello," said a woman's voice. "Hi, Maria," Emma said, her voice trembling. "It's me, Emma. I need your help." There was silence on the other end of the phone. Then Maria started crying. "Emma? Oh my God, Emma. I thought I would never hear from you again. I've been so worried about you." Emma closed her eyes, feeling tears start to form. "I know. I'm sorry. But I need to ask you for a favor. A big favor. Anything," Maria said through her tears. "You know I would do anything for you." Emma took a deep breath. "I need you to help me remember who I used to be." Emma stood in front of Maria's apartment door, her heart beating fast. She hadn't seen her old friend in 3 years. She wondered if Maria would even recognize her. The door opened, and Maria's face lit up with joy. "Emma," she cried, pulling her into a big hug. "I missed you so much." Emma hugged her back. Maria looked exactly the same. She was tall and beautiful, with perfect makeup and stylish clothes. She worked as a fashion designer for movie stars and rich people. Come in," Maria said, pulling Emma inside. "I made your favorite tea." Emma looked around Maria's apartment. It was beautiful and modern, with big windows and expensive furniture. On the walls were pictures of Maria, with famous actors and singers. "You look—" Maria paused, studying Emma's face. "You look so different." Emma touched her thick glasses. "I know. I've changed." "But why?" Maria asked. "Emma, you used to be so confident, so beautiful. What happened to you?" Emma sat down on Maria's white couch. This was the hard part. She had to tell Maria the truth about why she had disappeared 3 years ago. "Do you remember Daniel Rodriguez?" Emma asked quietly. Maria's face went pale. "Your ex-husband? The one who—" "Yes," Emma interrupted. "He found me again last month. He's been looking for me for 3 years. Maria grabbed Emma's hand. "Oh, Emma, I'm so sorry. I thought you were safe." Emma had been married to Daniel for 2 years. At first, he seemed perfect. He was handsome and rich, and he said he loved her. But after they got married, Daniel changed. He became controlling and mean. He didn't want Emma to have friends or go anywhere without him. When Emma tried to leave, Daniel threatened her. He said he would hurt her family if she ever left him. He had a lot of money and powerful friends. Emma was scared. So one night, Emma packed a small bag and ran away. She changed her name, cut her hair, and started wearing plain clothes and thick glasses. She wanted to look as different as possible so Daniel couldn't find her. She got a job as Mr. Harrison's assistant because she needed money, and she thought no one would notice her there. For 3 years, she had been invisible. "But Daniel found you?" Maria asked. Emma nodded. "He sent me a letter at work. He said he knows where I live now. He wants me to come back to him." "What are you going to do?" Maria asked. Emma stood up and walked to the window. "I'm tired of running. I'm tired of being scared. I'm tired of pretending to be someone I'm not." "But Emma, Daniel is dangerous. You know what he's capable of." Emma turned around. "I know, but I have an idea. My boss invited me to a big party. He did it to embarrass me, but I think I can use it to my advantage." Emma told Maria about the Golden Crown Charity Ball. She explained how Mr. Harrison wanted to make fun of her in front of all the important people in the city. "I want to go to that party," Emma said, "but not as the quiet, plain assistant. I want to go as myself. The real me." Maria's eyes lit up. "You mean?" I want to show everyone who I really am, including Daniel, if he's watching." Maria jumped up from the couch. "Emma, this is perfect. Do you still have that dress?" "The blue one." Emma nodded. I brought it with me. And do you still remember how to do your hair and makeup? Emma smiled for the first time in 3 years. A real smile. I think so, but I might need some help. Maria clapped her hands together. This is going to be amazing. Wait until everyone sees you. They won't believe their eyes. For the next 2 weeks, Emma and Maria were together. Every evening after work, Emma would go to Maria's apartment. They practiced walking in high heels, doing makeup, and styling her hair. Emma also started working out and eating better. She had always been beautiful, but years of hiding had made her forget how to carry herself with confidence. The hardest part was learning to speak up again. Emma had been quiet for so long that she had forgotten how to talk to people with confidence. Remember, Maria said one evening, you used to be the most confident person I knew. You ran your own business. You gave speeches in front of hundreds of people. You were incredible. Emma looked at herself in Maria's mirror. Slowly, she was starting to look like her old self again. What if people recognize me? Emma asked. Some people might. Maria said, but most people only see what they expect to see. If they're expecting a quiet assistant, that's what they'll see, until you show them otherwise. 3 days before the party, Emma got another letter from Daniel. This time, he had sent it to her apartment. The letter was short. I know you're hiding from me, Elena, but I will find you. You belong to me. Love, Daniel. Emma's hands shook as she read the letter. Daniel had used her real name, Elena Rodriguez. That was who she used to be before she became Emma Rodriguez. Elena had been confident and successful. She had owned a small business and lived in a beautiful house. She had friends and a life she loved. But when she married Daniel, everything changed. He made her sell her business. He made her move away from her friends. He wanted to control everything she did. Emma showed the letter to Maria. He's getting closer, she said. Then we need to move faster, Maria said. Elena, it's time to stop running. It's time to fight back. Emma looked at her friend. You're right. At the party, I'm not going to be Emma Rodriguez, the quiet assistant. I'm going to be Elena Rodriguez, the woman I used to be. And everyone will see who you really are, Maria said. Emma nodded, especially Mr. Harrison. He thinks he can embarrass me, but he has no idea what's coming. The night before the party, Emma stood in front of her mirror at home. She was wearing her old dress for the first time in 3 years. It fit perfectly. She looked at herself and saw Elena Rodriguez looking back. Strong, confident, and beautiful. Tomorrow, everyone would see the real her, including Daniel, if he was watching. Emma touched the necklace around her neck. It was a gift from her grandmother, who had raised her after her parents died. The necklace had a small locket with a picture of her grandmother inside. Give me strength, Grandma, Emma whispered. She was ready for tomorrow, but she had no idea that the party would change everything in ways she never expected. The day of the Golden Crown Charity Ball arrived with gray clouds and cold wind. Emma woke up early, her stomach full of butterflies. Today was the day she would stop hiding. She spent the morning getting ready at Maria's apartment. They had turned it into a beauty salon, with makeup everywhere and music playing softly. Are you nervous? Maria asked as she helped Emma with her hair. Emma looked at herself in the mirror. Her black hair was long and shiny, falling in soft waves down her back. Her makeup was perfect, making her eyes look bigger and more mysterious. I'm terrified, Emma admitted, but I'm also excited. For the first time in 3 years, I feel like myself again. Maria smiled. You look absolutely stunning. Mr. Harrison won't know what hit him. They spent hours getting Emma ready. Every detail had to be perfect. This wasn't just about looking beautiful. This was about showing everyone who she really was. At 5 o'clock, Emma put on her midnight blue dress. It fit her like it was made for her. The crystals on the dress caught the light and sparkled like stars. Oh my God, Maria whispered. Elena, you look like a princess. Emma looked at herself in the full-length mirror. She barely recognized the woman looking back at her. This was Elena Rodriguez, the confident businesswoman, not Emma Rodriguez, the quiet assistant. I almost forgot, Maria said. She handed Emma a small box. I got this for you. Inside the box was a beautiful diamond necklace. It was simple but elegant, and it went perfectly with the dress. Maria, I can't accept this, Emma said. Yes, you can, Maria said firmly. You deserve to feel beautiful. You deserve to be treated like the amazing woman you are. Emma put on the necklace and looked at herself one more time. She was ready. The Golden Crown Hotel was only a few blocks away, but Emma took a taxi. She didn't want to mess up her hair or dress by walking. During the short ride, Emma thought about what she was about to do. She was walking into a room full of people who knew her as a quiet, plain assistant. But tonight, she was going to show them the truth. She was also thinking about Daniel. She knew he might be watching somehow. Maybe he had people following her. Maybe he already knew about the party. But Emma wasn't afraid anymore. She was done running. She was done hiding. The taxi stopped in front of the Golden Crown Hotel. Emma paid the driver and stepped out onto the sidewalk. The hotel was beautiful, with tall columns and bright lights everywhere. Other guests were arriving too. Emma watched them walk into the hotel. The women wore expensive dresses and sparkling jewelry. The men wore perfect tuxedos. Emma took a deep breath and walked toward the entrance. Her high heels clicked on the sidewalk. She held her head high and walked with confidence. The doorman saw her coming and quickly opened the big glass doors. "Good evening, miss," he said with a smile. "Good evening," Emma replied. Her voice was clear and strong. As she walked through the doors, Emma could hear the party already in full swing. Music was playing, and people were laughing and talking. The sound of glasses clinking filled the air. Emma walked down a long hallway toward the ballroom. The walls were covered with expensive paintings, and the floor was made of shiny marble. She stopped just outside the ballroom doors. Through the glass, she could see hundreds of people in fancy clothes. They were all talking and laughing, holding glasses of champagne and eating tiny fancy foods. Emma spotted Mr. Harrison near the front of the room. He was talking to a group of important-looking people, probably trying to impress them. He looked very pleased with himself. Emma smiled. Mr. Harrison had no idea what was about to happen. She pushed open the ballroom doors and stepped inside. That's when everything stopped. The music stopped playing. The conversation stopped. Even the waiters stopped walking. Everyone turned to look at Emma. She could hear people gasp. Someone dropped a glass, and it crashed to the floor. Emma walked into the room slowly, her head held high. She could feel everyone's eyes on her, but she wasn't scared. She felt powerful. People started whispering to each other, but they couldn't take their eyes off her. "Who is that?" she heard someone ask. "She's beautiful," another person whispered. Emma walked across the marble floor toward the center of the room. With each step, she felt more confident. This was who she was supposed to be. She looked around the room and saw shocked faces everywhere. Rich businessmen with their mouths open. Society ladies staring at her with surprise. Even the waiters had stopped to look at her. Then Emma saw Mr. Harrison. He was standing frozen on a small stage at the front of the room. He was supposed to be giving a speech, but he had stopped talking when Emma walked in. His face was white as a sheet. His hands were shaking. The microphone in his hand was shaking too. Emma walked to the center of the room and stopped. She looked directly at Mr. Harrison and smiled. Not the shy smile she used to give at work, but a confident, powerful smile. Then she raised her hand and gave him a little wave. Mr. Harrison's mouth fell open. He couldn't believe what he was seeing. This couldn't be the same Emma Rodriguez who worked for him. This couldn't be his quiet, plain assistant. But it was. Emma turned and walked toward the bar. People moved out of her way like she was a queen. She ordered a glass of champagne and turned back to face the room. Slowly, the music started playing again. People started talking, but they kept looking at Emma. She could hear them whispering about her. "That's Emma Rodriguez," someone said. "She works for Harrison Industries." "She works for Mr. Harrison?" Another person asked in shock. "She's his assistant," someone else replied. Emma took a sip of her champagne and looked around the room. She could see the confusion and shock on people's faces. They couldn't understand how the quiet assistant had transformed into this confident, beautiful woman. But Emma's night was just beginning. She had come here to show everyone who she really was. And she was just getting started. As she stood there, sipping her champagne and watching the shocked faces around her, Emma didn't notice the man in the dark suit watching her from the other side of the room. The man had been waiting for this moment. He had been looking for Emma for 3 years. Daniel Rodriguez had found his wife. Emma stood at the bar, holding her champagne glass and watching the room buzz with whispers about her transformation. She felt amazing. For the first time in 3 years, she felt like herself again. But then she felt someone watching her. It was different from all the other stares. This felt dangerous. Emma turned around slowly and saw him. Daniel Rodriguez stood across the room, wearing a black tuxedo. He was tall and handsome, with dark hair and cold eyes. He looked exactly the same as he had 3 years ago. Emma's heart stopped. The champagne glass slipped from her hand and crashed to the floor. People near her jumped and looked at the broken glass. "Are you all right, miss?" a waiter asked, rushing over to clean up the mess. Emma couldn't speak. She just stared at Daniel. He smiled at her, but it wasn't a nice smile. It was a smile of a predator who had found his prey. Daniel started walking toward her, moving through the crowd like a shark. Emma's hands started shaking. She wanted to run, but her legs felt like jelly. "Elena," Daniel said when he reached her. He used her real name, the one she had been hiding from for 3 years. "You look beautiful tonight." Emma found her voice. "What are you doing here?" "I was invited," Daniel said calmly. "I donate a lot of money to charity. I'm very generous." Emma knew this was a lie. Daniel didn't care about charity. He only cared about control. "I've been looking for you for 3 years, Daniel continued. "Do you know how much trouble you've caused me? How much money I've spent trying to find you?" Emma looked around the room. People were still staring at her, but now they were also looking at Daniel. She could see confusion on their faces. They could tell something was wrong. "I'm not going back with you," Emma said quietly. Daniel's smile got bigger. "Oh, but you are. You're my wife, Elena. You belong to me." "We're divorced," Emma said. "I filed the papers 3 years ago." "You ran away before we could work things out," Daniel said. "That's not how marriage works." Emma felt anger rising in her chest. This was exactly why she had run away. Daniel always thought he owned her. "I don't belong to anyone," Emma said, her voice getting stronger. "I'm not your property." People around them started listening to their conversation. Emma could see them whispering and pointing. Mr. Harrison, who had been watching from the stage, finally walked over. He looked confused and worried. "Emma," he said, "is everything all right?" Daniel turned to look at Mr. Harrison. "You must be her boss." "I'm Daniel Rodriguez, Elena's husband." Mr. Harrison looked shocked. "Emma, you're married?" "Ex-husband," Emma corrected quickly. "We've been divorced for 3 years." Daniel laughed. "Elena likes to tell stories. We're still married. We just had a little disagreement." Emma could see that Mr. Harrison didn't know what to believe. She also noticed that more people were gathering around them. The whole party was starting to watch their conversation. "I'm not going with you," Emma said again, louder this time. Daniel's face got dark. "You don't have a choice. I found you once. I can find you again. No matter where you run, I will always find you." "Is that a threat?" asked a voice in the crowd. Emma turned and saw a man in a police uniform. He was tall and strong, with kind eyes. Emma recognized him from the newspapers. He was Detective James Wilson, one of the city's most respected police officers. "I'm sorry," Detective Wilson said to Daniel. "I couldn't help but overhear. Are you threatening this woman?" Daniel's smile disappeared. "This is a private conversation between a husband and wife." "Ex-husband," Emma said again. "We're divorced." Detective Wilson looked at Emma with concern. "Ma'am, do you feel safe with this man?" Emma looked around the room. Hundreds of people were watching her. Important people, rich people, people with power. For 3 years, she had been hiding and scared. She had let Daniel control her life even when he wasn't around. She had made herself invisible because she was afraid of him. But now, standing in this room full of people, Emma realized something important. She wasn't alone anymore. She had witnesses. She had support. No, Emma said clearly. I don't feel safe with him. He's been stalking me for 3 years. The crowd gasped. Detective Wilson stepped closer to Daniel. Sir, I'm going to have to ask you to leave, Detective Wilson said. Daniel looked around the room. He could see that everyone was staring at him. He was no longer in control. This isn't over, Elena, he said quietly. You can't hide forever. I'm not hiding anymore, Emma said. I'm done being afraid of you. Detective Wilson escorted Daniel out of the ballroom. Emma watched them go, her heart still beating fast. The room was quiet for a moment. Then, slowly, people started clapping. First one person, then another, then everyone in the room was applauding. Emma looked around in surprise. People were smiling at her with respect and admiration. They weren't seeing her as the quiet assistant anymore. They were seeing her as a strong woman who had stood up to a dangerous man. Mr. Harrison walked up to Emma. His face was red with embarrassment. Emma, I had no idea, he said. I'm so sorry. I invited you here to embarrass you. I thought it would be funny. I was wrong. Emma looked at her boss. You were wrong about a lot of things, Mr. Harrison. I know, he said. I've been a terrible boss. I've been cruel and unfair. Can you forgive me? Emma thought about this. Mr. Harrison had been mean to her for 3 years. He had tried to embarrass her tonight, but he was also apologizing, which he had never done before. I can forgive you, Emma said, but things need to change. Mr. Harrison nodded. Anything you want. A raise, a promotion, a better office. Whatever you need. Emma smiled. What I need is respect. I need to be treated like a valuable employee, not like someone you can make fun of. You have it, Mr. Harrison said. I promise. Detective Wilson came back into the room. He's gone, he said to Emma. I also called some friend of mine. They're going to make sure he doesn't bother you anymore. Emma felt a huge weight lift off her shoulders. For the first time in 3 years, she felt truly free. Thank you, she said to Detective Wilson. What you did tonight took real courage, he said. You should be proud of yourself. Emma looked around the room. People were still watching her, but now they were looking at her with respect. She had stopped hiding. She had stood up for herself. She had shown everyone who she really was. The party continued, but everything was different now. People came up to Emma to talk to her. They want to know about her business experience, her education, her dreams. Emma talked to them confidently, like she used to do before she married Daniel. She was Elena Rodriguez again, the successful businesswoman. But she was also Emma Rodriguez, the woman who had survived and fought back. As the party wound down, Maria found Emma by the windows overlooking the city. I'm so proud of you, Maria said, hugging her friend. I couldn't have done it without you, Emma replied. Yes, you could have, Maria said. You just needed to remember who you are. Emma looked out at the city lights below. Tomorrow, she would go back to work. But everything would be different. She would walk into that office with her head held high. She would speak up in meetings. She would be the confident, successful woman she was meant to be. She was done hiding. She was done being afraid. Elena Rodriguez was back. 6 months later, Emma was promoted to Vice President of Operations at Harrison Industries. She moved to a big office with windows overlooking the city. She wore beautiful clothes and spoke at important meetings. Daniel never bothered her again. Detective Wilson had made sure of that. Emma kept a midnight blue dress in her closet. Sometimes, when she looked at it, she remembered the night that changed everything. The night she stopped being invisible. The night she remembered who she really was. Mr. Harrison learned to be a better boss. He never made fun of his employees again. He often told people about the night his assistant taught him about respect and courage. And Emma, she lived happily, confidently, and freely. She was no longer the quiet assistant hiding in the corner. She was Elena Rodriguez, and she was unstoppable.